Hello friends, Kelly here, and I have a new sketchbook to share with you. And this is not just a sketchbook, it is my travel journal and my travel sketchbook for a trip I actually did about a year ago to Norway and Finland. And so there's just a bunch of really fun memories in here, and I can't wait to show you all of the pages from this sketchbook, and also just some of the reference photos and places that we went, and just kind of go through all of these really cool places in Norway and Finland. When I did travel last year, I brought just a few supplies with me. I brought this tiny little sketchbook that fits in my bag here, as well as I just brought two Poscas. I brought a dark blue and a light blue, and I mostly just used those while I was on the trip, as well as just a simple little, office pen basically, and that was kind of it. You'll see a lot of other colors in this sketchbook though, because I didn't complete the sketchbook while I was on the trip. When I'm traveling, I often am focusing on the people I'm with, and I'm focusing on the adventure, and I don't always have a ton of time to work in my sketchbook. So I make sure to draw as much as I can while we're on trains or on planes, but I take a lot of pictures so I can go back when I'm home and work through the rest of the sketchbook and work through the rest of my memories of the trip without taking time away from the trip itself. So let's just get started. At the beginning here, I just have the dates for our trip. I just wanted to catalog that, and there are a few instances where I catalog dates or little notes, but yeah, just kind of drawing what I'm seeing. So the first spread here is all about Oslo. We flew into Oslo for our first kind of couple of days, and so I just drew some of the things that we saw. We went by, the water and watched the boats. This is a statue that I saw there, as well as this building here that was kind of on our way to our hotel. I really love doing this kind of architecture drawing where I do an under color before I do the lines on top. I just always think it comes out really fun, really cool. So definitely see quite a bit of that style in here. Next we have the fortress that's in Oslo, if you can pronounce that. And we spent some time here. Our first night we grabbed some food and just went out and explored and walked around this fortress. I just love old buildings. They're always really, really cool to see, and I love to draw buildings and architecture. I also start using a lot of this kind of block coloring of just like the sky, and I've done that since quite a bit in the past year with other pieces, and I think it kind of started here in this sketchbook, which is cool to see. And this is just some things we saw at Frogner Park, which is a huge park in Oslo, and they have all of these sculptures, including the Angry Baby, which is pretty unique and kind of one of the main attractions, I guess, that people are familiar with. There are just a lot of like human statues there, and they're all in various poses and forms, and it's really beautiful. This was just a pattern of a gate and some flowers that we saw there as well. And we also spent some time in Oslo just walking around. We saw the Opera House. It's a really beautiful structure where you can actually walk up to the roof. They're kind of a zigzag up to the very top. And so that was really cool. People are just milling around, walking around on top of the Opera House, which was so cool. They also have this kind of dessert snack that's like a waffle, but it's like a 4-leaf clover heart, I guess. It's like 4 different sections of like a heart, like 4 different hearts stuck together, if that makes sense. And then we had brown cheese on it, and it was really good. Definitely unusual for me, but it was really fun. And then we spent a lot of time scootering around that day. We scootered around to Frogner Park and down to the Opera House. And that was really fun, but also kind of scary because I almost ran over some people on the sidewalk, and I felt really bad because we were trying to stay on the roads, but I ended up on the sidewalk and I couldn't get off the sidewalk, and then I almost ran someone over. So I felt very bad for being a poor steward of of the scooters. And here is a illustration of the train that we took. We took the train from Oslo to Bergen, which is on the west coast of Norway. And again, you see my kind of block coloring with the water and the sky. And this particular reference I just took from online because obviously I don't have any photos of outside of the train because I was in it. But I think that was one of my favorite parts of the trip. And we have some more about the train ride here in a minute, but all of this so far is work that I did while I was on the trip. And here you'll see I started doing some work, and I was actually on the plane to the next destination after Bergen, and I was using these Posca pins, and I click down, you push down to release more paint, and I didn't even think about it. The air pressure, of course, is different, and the paint went everywhere. I unfortunately got a little bit on my husband's sweater, but we made it through. We cleaned it up, and now this sketchbook has a bit of character because you see a lot of the paint that seeps through the seam throughout the entire thing, which is just a fun part of having a sketchbook and having a journal where, it's okay to have like stains or weird things that kind of happen to it. And it's like, this item has been on this journey with me and has been to these places, and this journal was part of the adventure, which is cool. But now I know, and now you know, that you should not use Posca markers or other acrylic markers like this on a plane. Stick to just a pen or something, or even just a pencil, just to make sure you're not losing paint. And so yeah, I started using this as just kind of a scrap page. But what I was trying to draw on the plane was actually these buildings, which are these. This is definitely one of my favorite spreads in the whole sketchbook. These are all a bunch of different train stations that we passed on our route from Oslo to Bergen. And I was really just admiring them as we passed. And so I had to look some up and decided which ones I wanted to actually draw. But again, I drew the base of the building, with the color, and then went over it with more detailed line, which was just with this little office pen. I really love how these look. I love the kind of simplicity to it. My only thing is I wish that I had another color that wasn't as dark. The navy is almost as dark as the black, so the black doesn't come out as easily. It doesn't pop out as easily. But yeah, I was only working with those 2 colors while I was over there. So that is all I had to work with. Clearly I must have brought a white as well. So, but yeah, I really love how all of these look. I think they look so cute together. So I'm really happy with this one. Another thing we saw on the train ride was this glacier, and you could see these little glaciers here sticking out, peeping out from the hills, and it was absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I think the train ride itself was one of my favorite parts of the entire trip, just because it was so beautiful. We saw so much scenery, and it was absolutely gorgeous. So I recommend taking a train in Norway, just because everything is so beautiful. We never got super close to any glaciers, but this was kind of the closest we came, and it was really, really beautiful. And you can see as well that I have started to use other colors. So these are things that I've added since returning home. So you can see that I actually didn't draw that much while I was actually on the trip. It was mostly just this first section. But when I came home, then I can continue to draw and go through my photos and, you know, have those memories. I will say it did take me almost a year to get through the whole thing, but I kind of like this way of doing it, where I'm not so focused on drawing while I'm on the trip, so I can just enjoy the trip and not stress about it. But having a sketchbook or a journal with you is such a fun thing to have when you are on a long train ride or you are on a plane or anything like that. It's better than staring at your screen, I think. And then we made it to Bergen. Bergen is a very, very cute town. It's like nestled in these big mountains. There's these 2 really big mountains, and you can go up to the top on gondolas and funiculars. And the downtown is like, has these beautiful houses and buildings, and there used to be like, and there still is a fish market there, but it was a big fishing, you know, city, and they really keep up these beautiful buildings there that now it's all mostly just like a touristy area. All these buildings have different tourist shops, but I found that really fun. Like I like being a tourist. I like to embrace being a tourist and do all the touristy things. And I loved going, and we shopped through, I think, every single store. I was searching for the perfect Norwegian sweater to take home, because I like to purchase like one big wearable as like my souvenir. So when I was in Ireland, I bought a sweater, and when I was in Norway, I wanted to buy a sweater too. So that's what we were doing in these shops at Bergen. And Bergen, I think, was one of my favorite parts of the trip too. It was just so much fun. We ate so much fun food, and yeah, it was just really, really beautiful out there. Rainy, very rainy when we were there. We were there in August, but gorgeous. And honestly, I didn't mind getting soaked with rain. And in one of the shops there was a display of all of this beautiful, beautiful costuming and original folkwear. And I love this kind of stuff. If you've followed me for a while or seen some of my other work, I love to draw folk costumes, because I was a Dutch dancer for a long time in my youth. And so I have a fondness for, 1800s or earlier folk costumes from different countries. And it was really fun seeing how these Norwegian costumes compare to Dutch. There's a lot of like, their bodices are kind of more like a vest, which is very beautiful. And there's definitely a lot of different colors and things, and different sorts of patterns and things that are different from Dutch costumes. So that was kind of fun to see. And of course, I'm sure just like for Dutch costumes, like the traditional wear is different depending on which region you're in, dependent on what specific city or village you're in. I just find all that stuff really fascinating, how one specific town could have a completely different, style than others. And so I had to at least draw a couple of these. I thought they were beautiful. So moving on, this is some more of Bergen, closer to the city center and farther from the shore, which is we were kind of by the docks and by the fish market, but we went in closer to kind of the center of the city and did some walking around there. And we had lots of ice cream on this trip in Norway and in Finland. We ate a lot of ice cream, so I had to draw that. But there's this nice little gazebo that was there, and I just had to draw that as well. And so in Bergen, they have several different museums, and one of them held a bunch of Edvard Munch's, or Mooch, oh goodness, I'm butchering it, I'm sorry. But you can all correct me in the comments. But he was a really fantastic artist, and I was really inspiring to see a lot of his work, and just his use of color and line. It was really fun, and I decided to attempt to kind of sort of recreate his self-portrait here with the colors that I had, and I thought that was kind of fun. We didn't really end up going to that many museums, but this was definitely one of the highlights for sure. We did go to the Fantoft Stave Church, which is a replica of an original church, and it's not very far from Bergen. It's just a quick little train ride away, and that was super fun. I felt like I was in How to Train Your Dragon or something with this very old architecture. And again, I love to draw architecture and buildings, and this one was a very cool one to see, even if it was just a replica. And then inside, these were some of the carvings and things that I saw that I found really interesting and intricate. So I wanted to kind of get a sense for that as well. And then we have our trip to Flom. And so Bergen was like way down here on the shore. And then the Sognefjord is the longest, I believe, the longest fjord in Norway. And so we took a ferry that went from Bergen all the way through, and it stopped at several different places, and then it ended in Flom. And we took the ferry not only to get to Flom, but also just because we wanted to see the fjord. And like I had mentioned, it was so rainy when we were there, and I was so worried that we would get out on the ferry and we wouldn't see anything because it was just going to be foggy and rainy and dark. But we were so lucky. We had a pretty great view, obviously not the best because it was still a little muggy and foggy, but we still got to see so much. And even with the fog and with the rain, it was so beautiful. I absolutely, I cannot even describe how beautiful Norway is. And I'm sure people have heard that before, but I will say it as well. And so that was definitely just stunning. And so we went to Flom. We were only there for a little bit. We went on a hike up to a waterfall. And on our way up to the waterfall, we saw a lot of these cows, of course. And so I had to draw one. And we really did not have a lot of time. The ferry was going to leave within I think it was an hour and a half or something like that. So we had to really rush to get up this hill. And it was a hill. It was just stairs all the way up for far too long. But it was worth it because the waterfall was beautiful and we just had a gorgeous walk, and it was very, very special. And one of the days we were in Bergen, we took the funicular up one of those big mountain hills. And so here's just a few of the things that was up there. That was really beautiful too. We walked around. There's like a lake up there, a big troll statue. We had a little treat, of course. There were so many little treats. We had so many little treats while we were out and about. We are definitely more so like get a fun little treat, get a fun little ice cream type people rather than sit down at a restaurant. So we stayed at Airbnbs everywhere we went, and we would just cook our own meals. And then we'd like buy stuff to make sandwiches for when we're out and about. And then we would spend money on our little treats. So that's how we do it when we travel, just because that's what we find joy in, spending money on. And you know, we aren't the type of people who can afford going out to eat every single meal when you're traveling. But that's how we do it. We get little treats, and like I said, lots of ice cream. And so up on the top of that hill there was this lake, like I said, and there were people canoeing and just so many beautiful plants. And of course I love taking photos of plants and flowers. I love kind of that's my version of nature photography, and it really fuels my creativity and gives me lots of references to draw from. So I love to draw nature, and I love to draw flora and fauna. And even more of Bergen here. Bergen gets a lot of love in this sketchbook. We of course had to try the fish cakes, and it came with like lots of other things to try, like fish soup and stuff. The fish cakes were amazing. Definitely recommend. This was one of the churches that was down kind of by the fish market. That was really pretty. Again, just I love to draw architecture and things, and some of the buildings that we saw that go all the way up the hill. It was really, really just a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful town. And then I'm jumping pretty far in our travels, but we took the plane from Bergen to Helsinki, and Helsinki is where I have a friend who was living and studying there, and so we kind of got a tour guide throughout Helsinki, and that was super, super fun. And the first thing he did was our first full day in Finland. We went to Porvoo, which is a little town just outside of Helsinki, and an easy bus drive away. And so they are a very Swedish town, because if you know anything about Finland, which I don't know very much, but from our trip there, I learned that Finland has been in control from Sweden and Russia throughout its history. So there's a lot of Russia influence and there's a lot of Swedish influence. And Porvoo is a Swedish town. And again, just these beautiful architecture, beautiful little village, and it's right along this river and has these beautiful red buildings that would be like, I believe like fishermen's like sheds and things, huts, you know, a storage for the fishermen, and all of that. So it also has this huge big church that was gorgeous. We were trying to get there to the church so we could like sit in on a service, and we didn't quite make it, which is a bummer, but we did get to go inside after the service was done. And it's absolutely stunning, beautiful. There's like really intricate art in there as well. And artistically, I'm really happy with this spread as well. I'm really happy with how the clouds are. I'm happy with the use of color, but it being kind of sparse color. I really enjoy using just like fine lines to add detail, and it feels very much like my, where is it? It feels very much like my little train stations, and how the buildings look, which is just, it just is what I want everything I do to look like. So whenever you make something that feels really good and very much like you, like this feels like my style. And so I love that one a lot. While we were in Porvoo, we went to the Runeberg house, and he was an author, and just an, important person, to Finland and Finland culture. And there were lots of, old, household things, including I saw the waffle iron for those waffles that they make in Norway and Finland, apparently. And then we also tried some of the Runeberg tarts, which were this guy's favorite tart. Very good. Almondy and raspberry. I believe it was raspberry and almond little pastry. Very delicious. And so we got to see the house where he lived and wrote a lot of things. And I'm sorry, I don't remember what he wrote. This is not the Runeberg house, but it was a house that was just in that little village area that I thought was really pretty. We had sat down to have some lunch, and I was just staring at this beautiful house, so I had to draw it. And then here's a view of Helsinki. This is another one of my favorite spreads in the entire sketchbook. I know my perspective isn't perfect. It's just a sketch. It's just kind of fun and loose, but I love how I was able to get all little people in there. You have it's a church actually that's in kind of in the center there of Helsinki. And yeah, we were just walking by, and I looked down the street and saw this view, and I had to snap a picture of it, and I knew I was going to draw that later. We were on our way to get salmon soup, which was delicious. Highly recommend. And we had spent the day at Suomenlinna, which is a fort island, which is also really beautiful, that I don't think I got a chance to draw in here. But yeah, Helsinki was just really fun, and there's lots to do, and yeah, it was gorgeous there. And I'm really happy with how this sketchbook spread turned out as well. I think one of the other traditional touristy things to do in Helsinki is to go to Regatta Cafe, or Cafe Regatta, just because it's so cute and so quaint. And I didn't have the coffee because I don't drink coffee, but I did have some tea, and you can just sit outside right by the water, and it was just really beautiful and picturesque. And here we have myself and my husband. There's just a really good picture of us goofing around that my friend took of us, and so I had to draw that because I feel like it really just encompasses our trip and how we felt. And we were just newly engaged and having a blast and just enjoying each other's company. In Helsinki, we went to a rose garden, like an outdoor garden and an indoor greenhouse, and they had all sorts of different plants and beautiful flowers. So I had to draw at least a few of them, and I feel like this spread isn't my favorite, but I do love to draw flowers. I love taking pictures of flowers, so I had to include that as well. And then we're at the end. This is just a quick sketch actually from Oslo, Norway. When we were scootering around, it's just kind of a fun story. We were just scootering around. We didn't really have a specific route we were taking. And I ended up, going down this little street. And I stopped and I thought, oh my goodness, I feel like I've been here before. I was looking around like, I have been here before. I had to stop and just stare. I was like, what is going on? And then I realized before our trip, I had been doing some sketching and looking at references of Norway and Finland. And I had actually drawn this exact street like months before we even went there. And then when I went there in person, you know, drawing something really kind of captures it in your memory. And so when I was there in person, I knew I felt so familiar with it. And it was just such an unreal, very surreal experience to realize I was actually in the photo that I had been referencing. So here's my original reference photo, and here's the photo I took. This is what I drew really quickly after I'd been there. And let me see if I can find the original sketch that I made before I was even ever in Norway. Let me look. Okay, so here is not this side. That was a different reference, but you hide that part. But this part was the drawing I did, the little sketch I did of this street. And this was months before we even went to Norway. And then somehow randomly, like not even trying to, I ended up on that exact street. It was so strange. It was incredible. And I love that. I love that little, little tiny part of the adventure. And yeah, I recommend, you know, drawing the places you're going to before you even get there. I think that's kind of fun. Here's a couple different views of Bergen that I did as well before we even got there. But yeah, super fun. I I still can't believe that I ended up there without planning it. But yeah, so, you know, you'll never know what happens when you travel with a sketchbook. So I hope that this encourages you to bring one on your next trip. And even if you don't draw a lot, maybe you just use it to, you know, write down your itineraries, where you went. It's always fun to go back on to remember everything and see where you've been. And my husband and I, we keep an actual written journal that we take with us every time we go on a trip, just so we can we take turns every day writing in it and what we did and any little fun little memories we have. So whether written or drawn, it is so precious to have these memories and to be able to look back on them and yeah, remember them in a fun way that isn't just a photo album. You really do remember more when you write it down, when you draw it, and then it just stays with you longer and you get to experience your trip in a completely new and different way. And so, yeah, I hope you enjoyed your little mini trip to Norway and Finland with me through this sketchbook. And I hope that, yeah, you enjoy your next trip. And let me know if you've been to Norway, if you've been to Finland, or if you're, you know, planning any other trip right now. Where are you going, and are you bringing a sketchbook with you? I'd love to know. Also, I will say, if you have been following along with me this year, my goal is to finish 6 sketchbooks, and this is number 2, I think. 2, 3, 4. Yes, this is number 2. I know we're halfway through the year and I've only finished 2 sketchbooks, but I have 4 more to go. I have a lot of sketchbooks that are half finished, so I'm trying to finish them all so that next year I can start fresh from scratch and not be lugging around the same sketchbooks. So this is one that I had on my list, and now it is complete. So let's see if I can finish 4 sketchbooks in the remaining 6 months of the year. Wish me luck. Okay, I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.